Welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast, bringing you authentic and vulnerable stories that will inspire you to breathe fire on this world and become your own hero. Here's your host, Blaise Hunter.
Hello, welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast. I'm Blaise Hunter, and I am a fertility expert. No, I don't help people get pregnant. This is a different type of expertise. I actually inspire women to birth their dreams, their passions, and their goals, as well as discover peace amongst infertility. After going through traumas and tragedies, dealing with a rare disease, and experiencing 3 miscarriages, I decided to take charge of my life and not let life happen to me, but rather become the hero of my life. I am not barren. I continually birth my purpose every single day. So that's why I've created this show, to demonstrate how even though we experience setbacks and disappointments, we still have a destiny to birth. We just need to blaze the trail and be expecting. This podcast will inspire you to lean into your problems and allow them to be the vehicle that transports you into becoming the hero of your life so you can breathe fire on this world. On this week's episode, we'll be talking about what's sex got to do with it? A few points that we're going to cover is we're going to talk about sex, love, passion, and purpose, and how all of that relates to stepping into our genius. And no one knows that better about being sexy and passionate than my friend Jacquie Somerville. Jacquie Somerville is bold, irreverent, spiritual, funny, a natural-born storyteller. Best-selling author and world-renowned passion coach. She empowers women to become confident, sexy magnets to the life and love that sets their soul on fire. Jacquie teaches that the perfect combination of love, sex, and romance elevates and motivates us energetically like nothing else. And when we allow ourselves to acknowledge this power and harness it, we can unleash our staggering potential, open the windows to opportunity and the doors to our greatness. Jacquie draws on a lifetime of challenging and rewarding experiences, a lifetime of pushing the envelope, taking big risks, and challenging the status quo. She's been married a few times, immigrated twice, been fat, slim, broke, rich, and followed her gut to a life of excitement, adventure, passion, and purpose. Welcome, Jacquie, to the show.
Woohoo! Hey, Blaise, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining me. I'm so excited. For most people listening, they don't know that we met at the Fearless Woman Summit in Los Angeles, which then we went on to Las Vegas, New York, and I even saw you in Canada and Edmonton, and we've just had an amazing connection from the start, and you've just been so inspiring and command such attention when you speak. You literally are one of the best speakers I've ever seen.
Oh, thank you, Blaise. Yeah, it's been, it's such a delight to meet you, and your story is so inspiring, and your strength is incredible. And so, yeah, it's just been a joy to know you.
Well, I appreciate it. And that's what I kind of, before diving into like really getting to know you a little bit more, just to tell the listeners out there of how you really embody what you preach. And I really respect that about you, because I find with life coaches, and this business has become such a billion-dollar business, we get caught up in the business aspect, and sometimes we get lost in humanity and just helping a fellow colleague out. And so when I ran into you in the lounge after the summit in Los Angeles, we had a good talk, and I just said, hey, I respect you. Like, do you have any tips of how I can really niche what my market is? And you just were there for me, and you just offered your expertise and your knowledge, and you didn't try to charge me for your hourly rate. You literally just wanted to be a go-giver and give value where you have and help people and help womankind, and I truly appreciated that.
Well, thanks for saying that. And, and it's so incredible to watch how you took that advice and you ran with it and have really just created something so incredible and so unique. And so, yeah, it was my absolute pleasure and such a joy for me to see how you've just kind of blossomed and taken it and run with it. I mean, it's so awesome.
Well, and that's just the beauty of it, of what we're doing. It's not to be the best woman in the world. We're literally doing this to empower everybody and create such a tidal wave of empowered women and fearless women. And like, I just respect that of you. And you said, yeah, like, I totally think you should really run with that fertility side. So Jacquie is legit the person that, helped me hone in on my expertise of helping people birth their purpose, birth peace. And you just deserve all the praise, because I really appreciated you being a go-giver there.
Oh, thanks, Blaise. Thank you. And you're such a giver too, right? You inspired in others. So,
right. I think we hit it off because we both talk about passion, and I think we just hit it off. We're soul sisters. So it's been an awesome journey just to watch you go through the tour and just inspire others. So you're doing a fantastic job. And then leading into that, I just wanted to let you have the floor to really describe what's been going on with you. And you've had a complete life-altering journey. It's so amazing. You wouldn't believe it until you hear it and know Jacquie herself. It is right out of like a movie story. But can you take us through all the highs and lows over the last while and explain how that shaped you and where you are on your journey, and talk about that?
Sure. I mean, gosh, there is so much, because my journey's been shaped from day one, really, when you think about it. But, I think in the last sort of 10 years or so, I ended a significant relationship in my life where I'd been a kept woman, is what I like to say. For 10 years, I'd sort of lived the life of Riley, had all the material possessions any human could possibly want, lived in ultimate luxury, and found myself at the end of that feeling absolutely miserable and empty, and knowing that I had a purpose on this planet that I was not living up to. I knew that I had all this potential. And what I've discovered is that when a human being has all their basic needs taken care of, nothing will drive you more crazy or make you more miserable than untapped potential. And I discovered that the hard way, where I literally looked out at my beautiful estate, my horses down there by the lake grazing in this beautiful place that had been my dream, that everything that I'd ever wanted I'd created. And I sat there just thinking, why am I so miserable when I have everything? And I realized it was because I had all this untapped potential, and that, whether one believes in God or divine intelligence or whatever, I had been born with some gifts, as we all are. And I believe that it is our mission, the reason we were born and the reason we came to this earth in this human form, was to give birth to those gifts and to run with them and to take them to fruition. And so it was just eating me up that I wasn't doing that. And so I sabotaged the relationship and ended up being a sort of a free agent and having to figure out what to do next. And I had already been a personal development junkie, reading 1 million books and studying everybody on the planet. And, studying human potential, personal development, how do we make our dreams come true? What was next for me? And in that process, discovered that I wanted to be a writer, a speaker, and a coach, and began studying all the experts in that regard. I went to flight school to learn how to fly airplanes, because that was an itch that I wanted to scratch. I followed my curiosity everywhere that it led me over the course of those couple of years, just trying to figure out what my passion and purpose was. Why was I put on this earth? And I knew that the answers would come as long as I experimented with things. I do believe in the saying of seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened. And so I was seeking. And anything that I was curious about, I went down that path and researched it and experimented with it. And one thing always led to another, even if it wasn't a direct path. So I would say to people right off the bat, follow your curiosity. And if there's anything you're interested in, don't ignore it. Investigate it at least. Go down that path a little bit until it gives you answers. So one thing led to another, and I went to seek my passion and purpose all over the place, including, as I said, flight school. I started writing books. I started a business. I started a blog. I didn't know how the money was going to come. I just was following my gut, and I followed it into a grocery store in the California desert. I'd bought myself a winter home in California. I'd been living in Vancouver, Canada at the time, and I was going back and forth, and I was down for my first season. and met a man, a beautiful young man, 17 years my junior, in a grocery store in California. Ended up falling madly in love, passionately in love, not wanting to be apart, having to go back to Canada because of the whole immigration thing. I could only spend 6 months of the year in the U.S. in any year. And so I was forced back to Canada, and I was miserable without this beautiful, passionate man. And so, to cut a long story short, we ended up getting married after a short period of time. And what unfolded after that was just such an extraordinary, tragic, life-altering series of events, as you know. And I'm not going to give the whole story away here, but in the process of that relationship and following my heart and allowing the passion to kind of guide me, I discovered so many things. The first one was that I realized that there is nothing, the desire for sex is the most powerful of all human desires. Napoleon Hill identified that in his famous book, Think and Grow Rich. And if we choose to harness it, it can help us access our zone of genius like nothing else on the planet. And I experienced that firsthand when I would wake up early in the morning at about 5 o'clock, and I'd go through to the living room, and I would leave my beautiful man, this gorgeous 6'3", handsome, 29-year-old. I was 46 at the time, and he was so delicious. He was so wild. He was so raw. He was just, so honest. He just wore his life on his sleeve. And just the best lover, the best kisser, and the best lover I'd ever experienced in my life, bar none, by far. And so I was just vibing in this zone of joy with all of this going on. And so I would go through at 5 a.m., leave him and my dog sleeping in bed, and I would write. And I wrote a best-selling book from cover to cover in about 4 or 5 weeks. Why? Because I was so hyped up on the love, the sex, and the romance. And I would channel that energy. I could have stayed in bed in the mornings and cuddled with him and, played and, just stayed there. But I channeled that energy, and I went and I poured it into my computer. And I wrote that best-selling book in 4 to 5 weeks because I was so hyped up and channeling that energy. So I experienced firsthand what Napoleon Hill explained in Think and Grow Rich in the chapter called Sex Transmutation. It's very powerful. I'd highly recommend people read it. And so then that sort of became a new focus for me. And then what happened was there was a tragedy that occurred 7 months after the wedding. And as a result of that tragedy, I then learned through the following few years and the trauma that went on over the following few years, I then learned the meaning of unconditional love. Mm-hmm. So I'd experienced passion, I'd experienced great sex, I'd experienced romance, but my notion of unconditional love was challenged mercilessly over the next few years. And I learned true unconditional love. And if I had not been through that tragedy and the experience with my beautiful man, which took me to the darkest places in my life, I would not be able to coach the women that I coach in the world today. I'm able to relate to their pain and suffering, but also to help them to not only create brilliant relationships with their spouse, but to recover relationships from infidelity, from all sorts of things that would ordinarily be considered deal breakers. Because I have experienced the true meaning of unconditional love and how hard that was and how our society doesn't get it so much. Our love is usually conditional even when we think it isn't. And we associate love with attachment. And love and attachment are not the same thing. And so I learned that the hard way, and it's enabled me to really help other people in a way that I could never have imagined had I not been through that. So that's to give you a nutshell. Does that explain some of the journey and where
amazing.
I am right now? Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly like I often teach, our pain is our purpose, or, a problem that we see or that we've gone through, and you've done that. You've tapped into the pain and the tragedy and the heartbreak, and you've transformed it into something to help yourself through it, but also help others.
Yes.
And talk about a topic that is quite still taboo when you go to things like this for empowerment or inspiration. We're not really touching on certain topics, and mine as well, the infertility and miscarriages and stillbirth. These topics are still taboo, and I think that's why we connect so well, is that we're willing to push through those status quo and those barriers, right?
Totally. Yeah, you're so right.
And so this show is titled What's Sex Got to Do with It? And we're not just talking about sex, the act. We're talking about, like you said, passion, connection, love, intimacy. That's all part of having a healthy sexual relationship with your partner. And you coach clients to be passionate and unlock their genius.
Yes.
And you link that with sex.
Yeah.
So what do you find is a major stumbling block for people having a healthy relationship with their partner with sex?
Quite simply, they don't prioritize it. It's that simple. Why do we not prioritize it? And, people just think, oh, there's more important things. No, there isn't. If you have an amazing sex life with your partner, I defy you to find all sorts of other problems. It's so interesting. In fact, just last night I was having a conversation with a man at a hotel bar that I was sitting at while I was doing my work, and a happily married man, and we got into this conversation. It was so interesting, and he said to me, gosh, it's so true. He said, when our sex life is great, he said, we don't nitpick with one another about anything else. It's like, it's truly incredible. And I found in my own relationships that when my sex life was great, my relationship was great. And so when I prioritized the sex part, everything else kind of became so much easier. And yet it's the first thing people let go. The first thing. Because we don't realize how important it is. Oh, well, we've got to work on communication. No, because when we work on communication, we make that a big deal. And nobody enjoys somebody saying, we need to have a talk. We need to have a conversation. But it's just terrible. Talk about killing, the relationship.
And romance. And the connection. Absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm. So if we focus on the fun stuff, it's like, it's interesting how so many people have said this, and I found this true in my own life and in my own business. Even with money, when we get down and serious and try to seek money and make it difficult and stuff, money, we build a wall for money to come in. And it's the same thing with love. When we go to the fun place, we open up that wall. And same with business. So when you start having fun in your business and you start approaching life with more of a lighthearted, fun approach, just as you would communication, just as you would your partner, if you put fun back into your life, you're going to cause flow in all aspects. Money, love, great sex. And what is more fun for an adult? I think it's like Disneyland is for kids, sex is for adults. To me, it's like the ultimate in fun. Like, hello, I don't think anything is more fun. Like, come on, really? And especially if you open your mind to having a fun time with it.
Exactly. And I feel like connection and closeness and intimacy are a byproduct of when you put unconditional love and fun back in at the forefront, right? Like everything else is the byproduct of that, but we don't realize that as humans. Like you said, it's the first thing to go. The fun is the first thing to go, the connection, the sex, all the good parts to being in a relationship, right?
Yeah. And I see it all the time. People just, they just existing within their relationship. They irritate one another, like all of those things, because they haven't taken care of the small things. I think it was Stephen Covey said, in a relationship, if you take care of the small things, the big things take care of themselves. And I was like, yes, my God, isn't that so true? Mm-hmm. When I remember watching this movie once when the line was, at what point did we stop picking each other up from the airport? And I thought, my God, have I experienced that in relationships where we've stopped doing those little nice things for one another and it's all unraveled from there? Yes. If you continue to take your spouse or your partner or your lover coffee in the morning and kiss them hello and goodbye, all of those things that people eventually stop doing, And, of course, the relationship is going to just unravel and become boring, and eventually you're going to want out. If you take care of the small things, the big stuff takes care of itself. And so the little things, kissing one another, patting each other on the behind as you walk past, flirting, winking, saying something fun, doing something unexpected, grab him between the legs when he least expects it. All those things. I remember leaving for the airport one day, and the cab was waiting for me, and my husband, who had this tragic accident, was lying in the bed and was unable to get up and come outside. So instead of kissing him goodbye, I gave him a blowjob, and I'll never forget that, because I got to the airport and he texted me. He's like, "Oh my God, like that was the best goodbye anybody could have ever gotten." And I was like, "Yeah, it was I just thought, well, what the heck? I'll give him a really quick blowjob. The cab's waiting for me outside, and it'll be fun for both of us." And I went to the airport with a big smile on my face, and he was one happy man. So yeah, doing the fun stuff is the best thing ever. You don't think we had great communication and a great relationship for a while after that? Of course we did. It changed all the big stuff.
Yes, and it kind of loosens everything up, right? Yeah. It allows that kind of pathway for other communication. And I talk about sex in my own book, Heroine, and because when I wrote it, I was going through miscarriages. I was going through a time where my daughter was only 3, and anyone that's a parent knows there is that phase in life where you become a parent or anything like that, and sex really isn't on top of the list because of sheer survival. You're not sleeping. You're breastfeeding. Your body's changing. There's literally no open door for sex because it's all hands on deck. And sometimes if you have a troubled child or a baby that's crying every night, there really isn't time or energy to have a sexual relationship. And I experienced that. It was hard on our marriage, and no one was talking about it. No one was there to help me through that. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to ask. Yeah. He pulled away. I pulled away, and you're not pulling together, right? You're just going further and further apart. And I feel like that happens in many parts of relationships, whether it's childbearing years or, when they're older and now they're out of the house and now you have to reconnect because you really haven't done that while you were focused on your children. And different stages happen in your sexual life with your partner. And I really wanted to ask you that because I find with my audience, they're in that. They're in the thick of things with their little ones and the diapers and getting up through the night and teething and activities, and they're losing the sexual connection. And their husbands are upset, and they are upset because they actually do enjoy sex, the women too, but there's so many priorities. So how can you tell my listeners and my audience of how to, maybe reconcile that a little bit and move forward towards intimacy and connection with their partner, with their sex life?
Yeah. So again, I'll just reiterate how important it is to prioritize it. No matter what, listen, we all go through seasons, and there are times when, gosh, we're sick, we're unwell, the child is sick, there's no possibility. But there's windows of opportunity in life, in everything that we miss, because we allow ourselves to see things from a negative perspective, or we go into a dark place instead of looking for the light. And so it's so important to seek those opportunities, even if they're small. Just say, "Baby, I'm exhausted tonight, but I just want to kiss you." And just give them a big smooch. Just do what you can, because sex is one of those things that when you don't use it, you lose it. And it starts this downward spiral, and it's very difficult to get it back once the resentment has built. So I would say, seek the little windows. It's like when I'm helping a client to increase their fitness and feel better about themselves. I tell them to go to the gym for 5 minutes, not an hour. Yeah. They don't go for an hour. Why? Because it seems daunting. But if all it takes is a little kiss, just reminding him or reminding her that they're important and that they're sexual beings in your life, just little windows then. It doesn't have to be all in. You don't have to have, a wild, passionate night. You don't have to come. You don't have none of that. But just make sure that the little windows are not left. Take those windows of opportunity and do not ignore them and look for them. And the other thing I will say, and this is difficult for moms to hear a lot of the time, is that the relationships that I've seen that are very successful, where the love lasts and the passion lasts, they prioritize the relationship over the children.
Yes, I agree.
You cannot prioritize your children and make them more important than your husband or your wife.
Absolutely agree. It trickles down. They won't lose out on your love or your attention. That love just trickles down and flows down from the love you have with your partner. Totally agree with that.
Yes, it does. And your kids will be so much happier because they will have a happy home, happy parents. Honestly, it is the answer. And yet, how many people don't do that? So
I know. I think we've gotten lost in that a little bit, and maybe a bad advice in society or culture that we've shifted to. Really, it's all about the kids 24/7. And yes, they're always a priority, but they're not the number one priority 24/7, right? So my relationship is number one. Otherwise, why do you think we have so many broken homes and relationships? It's because we haven't invested the energy of putting them number one, right?
Totally, Blaise. Yes, exactly.
Unreal. And you know what, and there's probably certain people listening right now that don't have a partner and they're single and they're like, well, I'm done. I can't have a passionate life unless I'm having sex. Or no, then you've got to draw on something else, right? To have that creative energy flowing and that inspiration, whatever it may be for you to have that release.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's really important. Look, we were created as sexual beings. And we exist on this planet because somebody did it. It is the very act of creation. There is nothing more normal and natural and beautiful than sex. It's like breathing. We are here because of it. And just, have a little bit of fun. Start flirting again and just allow yourself to enjoy things without any expectation. No expectations. I love what you said before about be expecting. Be expecting of life and of God, / the universe, whatever one believes in. Be expecting of yourself and of life and of God. Do not be expecting of other human beings. When we drop all expectations and we go out and have fun trusting that the universe is guiding us, oh my goodness, whether you're single or in a relationship, your life is about to get really, really good.
I'm coming from a Christian home. I have beliefs, and I had to reconcile of what certain things I thought was right or wrong to all of a sudden being married and having these different kind of ideals around sex. And I had to dig down to what I felt was right with my values and morals and my religion. And that's what the advice I want to give to anyone. You've got to, reconcile that with your own heart and with what you feel is right for you and your belief system. It's nobody else telling you. That's a really personal choice. So definitely if you're religious or if you're not, really tune into what you feel is right and follow that. That's your moral compass. That's your values, but it's yours. It's nobody else's, yours, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I just want
so even if you don't believe in anything like that, that's fine. It's your choice. But I want you to know, you're not awful if you want to enjoy sex in your relationship. That's what it was created for. It wasn't just for babies. It was created to connect, right? And be one flesh. And so really just talking about this really taboo topic, which even coming from a very conservative background, people are probably going, but you know what? We need to have these conversations. How are we going to help each other if we never talk about it, right?
Yeah, it's so true.
Moving on to another point here, I know we both have been on stages and we both talk about our tragedies and our stories, our highs and our lows and our peaks and our valleys, and we really embody vulnerability. You do to a core, Jacquie. But I know with me, when I've gone out there so much, now some of those stories aren't so vulnerable because I've freed myself from them, and they're stories and they're definitely deep, but they're not so hitting that vulnerable place. What do you do to push yourself to be that detective and dig a little deeper than what you've shared already and really expose your vulnerabilities to get past those fears and really embody vulnerability on a daily basis?
So I have a question back for you. Why do you think, if you've already embraced your vulnerabilities, why do you feel like it's important to continue to search for more?
Well, I think we're always in that progressive journey where we're never arrived to like that's it, because then life really wouldn't have a point of growth anymore. To me that means a little bit of stagnation. Now it's like not making sure you unveil every part of yourself to the world, but what do you do on a continual basis to really just push that vulnerability, that I'm continually pushing myself to places I've never been before? Because I find once I get somewhere, like I find like, oh, because I've shared so many deep things, it's like, oh, I could be like, I'm done, I've done it. But no, like I have a whole life to still push myself past a fear or embody that vulnerability, right?
Sorry, yeah. So I was sort of misunderstanding what you were saying about vulnerability. So look, I mean, I am an experimenter of note. Push the envelope, take risks constantly. It is who I am in my soul. And I do that way beyond what most people would do.
Yeah.
But I do believe that you are, if you constantly experiment with life, when you feel a hunch, when you have an opportunity, if you take it, you will never stagnate, ever. And truthfully, as human beings, our desires are constantly leading us forward. It's when we allow ourselves to have desires and to accept them and not downplay them and not consider them bad. So we have desires in terms of material possessions, or desires in terms of luxury travel, or desires in terms of all sorts of, whatever it is that you are drawn to. It's not a coincidence. You were meant to do that. You're being drawn to it for a reason. So don't push it under and move towards your desires. So you get an opportunity, you take it. So, for me, it's up-leveling my business, right? It's what is my current goal in my business. It's pushing myself to a much higher financial goal every year. It's putting myself on bigger stages. It's writing the next book. I just wrote, I had the biggest year of my life in 2019, doubled my coaching business, wrote my third book, went on on tour with my very own show, spoke in 40 cities across North America on the Fearless Women's Summit, did things like pushed. And so once we get to a point where we have achieved something, birth a new desire. Yes. And don't say no to the new desire. So you might have, and I give these extreme examples because I do love luxurious living and all of that. So let's say your desire was to always fly first class. Now you've got that matched. Well, maybe you've got a desire to fly on private jets. Okay, so don't say that that's not possible for you. Don't try to squash the desire as being not right. Put it out there. Imagine it, visualize it, and move towards it. So you're constantly, one desire leads to another. And I'm using material things here because that makes a very easy example. But, the desires can apply to anything.
Yeah, and I think you honed in on a word there, push. It's always just whatever, and I talked about it before, when you feel that response of fear where my heart races and I'm a little scared, I have to ask the question, is that fear to protect myself, or is this fear that I need to push through? And you have to ask that in that moment. And then if it's just because you're scared, well, just push through, because if you fall or fail, it doesn't matter. It's about you pushing, right?
Yeah.
So I think, you answer that is like you just continually push the limits and push different things in different areas of your life wherever you want to take that. But you definitely have to challenge yourself to lean into that, maybe pain, because a lot of times we feel pain and we're like, nope, feel pain. It's obviously not right for me, right? And it's like you got to decide, is that pain for a reason or pain to signal to you you've got to lean into the transition labor pains and the contractions to actually burst something. That pain is there to help you. It's a signal, right?
Absolutely. Yes, exactly.
So
right.
Thank you. Perfect. Go ahead.
Something on that. It's really important. I am an incredibly spiritual person, as I know you are, and none of this, I couldn't do this without faith. Faith is the
Mm-hmm.
driving force behind everything in my life, especially in recent years. Having gone through everything, I think the biggest thing that came out of the last few years and that road that I was on with the beautiful man, I would say not only the lesson of unconditional love, but the true understanding of faith and my connection with God, with the divine, is deeper than ever. And now I get the magic of it. And so for me, faith is so key because you can't step into those risky places and step through the fear without faith. So I do believe that your fortune is in your faith, your future is in your faith, your dream life is in your faith, your destiny is in your faith. Faith is really key. So I just want to reiterate how important that is. It's not about doing crazy, risk-taking things
Exactly.
without having a deep spiritual grounding
Totally.
based in faith. One needs faith, whether it's faith in yourself and your connection to divine intelligence, whether you believe it's God, whatever you believe in. But faith is really key to all of this. I would
And
never
I
suggest
totally
somebody do
agree.
this from an ego mind. It's got to
No.
be in conjunction with the universe at large.
Well, and that's I always have checks and balances with my faith. I'm very spiritual with my faith in God, and it's that check and that balance and like, is this right? Is this my ego talking? Is this the right time to do this? And it's always that inner check that I feel in my heart, and everybody has to do that and reconcile that on their own, right? Everybody has that own way of doing it, their own spiritual path. And even just funny, like today I was launching this podcast, and it's called Blaze the Trail, and I was so exhausted from getting it uploaded everywhere. I threw on a program on the TV, and right there a line came on from this actress, and she's like, I just don't want to do the normal. I want to blaze the trail. And I'm like, oh, I'm in the right place at the right time. There was a sign there from God, and it was just amazing to sit there and be like, I am in the right place where I'm supposed to be, right?
Yes.
So amazing when those moments happen and being sensitive to those moments, because they can come and go and you never notice them because you're too busy doing your life, and you've got to tune in, right? Because they do come. And a lot of people are like, oh, I never get a sign. And like, you have to tune in the frequency. You might be in a fuzzy frequency, like turn the channel. Right? Because God is talking to you, leading you through your path. It's not just, like you said, not ego. It's not just, I want to push all limits. It's really honing in on what our purpose is and drawing on all these different faucets, which is like passion and creativity, including connection and sex and love. And all of that draws into where we're supposed to go in life and our destiny, right?
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. So you have written a book recently, released it. That's what you were talking about on the Fearless Women Summit Tour. You've started now your own One Woman After Dark show across Canada. How is that going? Where are you going next? Where can people buy your book?
Yeah, so it's really exciting. So yes, I wrote the book called The Beautiful Man in 2019. However, I've not released it yet. So your audience, if they can wait and stay tuned, perhaps join my website at JacquieSomerville.com.
Yes.
That way they'll get all the information when it's ready. Because I am rewriting some of I fulfilled all the pre-orders from all the people that.
Yes, because I've read it. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I've read
you did. But I am changing the ending and I'm adding some stuff and.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So don't worry. I'll make sure that you get a copy of the new version before we launch it to the general public. So. So it's not available right now, but it will be hopefully soon in the next few months. So stay tuned for that. And then One Woman After Dark, which is the show version of the story, is incredible. You know, I mean, I'm filling these little theaters by myself, which is truly remarkable. And I have two shows coming up in the Canadian Maritimes. I'm doing Halifax, Nova Scotia, and St. John's, Newfoundland on February 6th and 8th. And so I'm really excited about that. I've got San Jose, California coming up in March. And I'm not too sure where and what I'm going to do after that. My coaching business is very, very busy right now. And I'm talking with television executives, and the other day, met with one of the biggest agents in the world, and so there's all sorts of things going on, and just as to what what order I do them, we'll have to see. But it's very
You're a
exciting.
busy woman. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'll make a great movie. So, there's all of that. So yeah, it's really exciting. And but right now working with my clients is hugely thrilling for me, and watching them develop incredible love lives and incredible lives, right? Wealth, love, sex. It's yeah.
Well, and that's what I want to recap some of the things we've talked about. Just like it's like what sex got to do with it. It's got a lot of things to do with not just the act of sex, but just all of the creative juices that flow from having that healthy connection with your partner. Even if you're not an artist, even if you work behind a computer, it's all about just releasing all of that creativity, that how you can, dive into your purpose, whether it's your job, whether it's your passions on the side, whether it's relationships or how you be a mother and how you mentor people and how you connect with people. It's all about connection and love, and that I call it agape love, all the unconditional love like you talk about. And it's just about connecting on a different level, on such an in-depth level of intimacy with yourself as well as with other people, and taking it from there and walking in your destiny. And you help with that. You help people tap into that creative energy, talk about sex and passion and walk in your genius. And if people want to get a hold of you and ask you questions and contact you, how can they do that, Jacquie?
Yeah, awesome, Blaise. So JackieSomerville.com, I think, is the best place, which is JACQUIE. And Somerville is SOMERVILLE, just one M. And it's so JackieSomerville.com. And that way they can sign up on my website and they will receive all the updates. And I do videos every week with sexy success tips. So if they want some sexy success tips in their inbox every week, then make sure to sign up on JackieSomerville.com.
Wonderful. I appreciate you coming on my show and just having a no-holds-barred conversation about all of the stuff linked to passion and sex and healthy relationships and connecting. I know my audience will definitely be intrigued, and it's just such a pleasure to connect with you again and join forces and empower people, and I just appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you, Blaise. It's been my absolute pleasure.
So a little more food for thought. What is your sex life saying about your relationship? Are you connecting and experiencing intimacy, or is there a disconnection? It doesn't matter what stage you are in your relationship, whether you are knee-deep in diapers and breastfeeding or having sleepless nights, or maybe you're out of that phase and the kids are grown and you haven't connected in years. We need to fight for that vital part in our marriage. Maybe you're going through major hormonal issues, menopause, or an illness. And when you haven't connected in a long time physically, you might feel like you can't even talk about it anymore. So you just ignore it. But each couple has to find a way to communicate what's truly going on. That's the only way to begin reconnecting again, emotionally and physically. So it's about verbalizing what's going on in your body and in your mind and creating that safe place for both you and your partner to communicate. And just a little tip, that is pure intimacy right there. So ask these questions and give yourself honest answers. Work on starting that conversation with your partner. I know when there is discord, there is no libido. And speaking from experience, when you have fights, disagreements, you're on opposite pages, you're going through major issues just in life in general, and the pressures and money issues or work problems, it's just so much happening that you don't have that libido. So you've really got to work on the emotional intimacy, and women need that to want to have sex. But men need respect. And it's so easy to spiral into this toxic pattern when women feel they aren't getting the love or support they need. They want to resent you. They withhold their respect and stop the sex. Then men feel like they are being punished and disrespected, so they withhold their love. And that pattern can just continue for years and years until somebody stops that cycle and says, hang on, let's just get back. Let's meet in the middle. We're on the same team. So start that conversation and reconnect emotionally and physically, and that will allow the creative genius to be unleashed in your relationship. That's it for this week's episode. Challenge yourself to be vulnerable. Lean into those difficulties and have those open conversations so we can rise up as the heroes of our lives, and let us breathe fire together. Thanks for listening. I'm Blaise Hunter.
You've been listening to Blaze the Trail with Blaise Hunter. To learn more about how you can breathe fire and unleash the hero within, or to listen to past episodes, visit blaisehunter.com.